The metallic corridors of Station Nexus 7 hummed with the artificial heartbeat of 1,000 species coexisting in uneasy harmony. In the sterile medical bay, beneath the cold glow of quantum lights, a small blue-skinned infant sat motionless on an examination table, her completely hairless head catching the light as her large dark eyes reflected nothing but emptiness. For 14 rotations, Princess Zara had refused every offering of nourishment, her tiny blue body growing weaker while the galaxy's most brilliant xenobiologists stood helpless. The daughter of the most feared alien queen in the Outer Rim was slowly fading away, and no one understood why. No one, except the dark-haired human janitor in the grey shirt who watched from the shadows, clutching a feeding bottle that would change everything. Before we start, subscribe now so you don't miss more incredible stories like this one. Oh, and before we dive in, tell us in the comments, where are you watching this video from? We love hearing from you and always read every message. The medical ward of Station Nexus 7 buzzed with frustrated voices, speaking in a dozen alien tongues. Dr. Vexen, the station's chief xenobiologist, ran his six-fingered hands through his crystalline hair as another scan came back negative. "There's nothing physiologically wrong with her," said Dr. Vexen, his voice crackling with electromagnetic frustration. "Every cellular analysis shows perfect health, yet she continues to refuse sustenance." The small blue infant, Princess Zara, sat cross-legged on the bio-bed, her completely bald head smooth and gleaming under the medical scanners. Her translucent blue skin shimmered faintly, but her eyes remained vacant and distant. Her mother, Queen Lysara, stood like a statue carved from violet marble near the viewport. The alien queen's purple skin seemed to glow with an inner light, her long violet hair cascading down her shoulders as she wore a form-fitting purple suit that seemed to be made of living metal. Her beautiful but intimidating features remained impassive as she watched the medical team's futile efforts. "Perhaps the child is simply being difficult," sneered Commodore Brex, a reptilian officer whose scales shifted from green to amber when agitated. Royal offspring are known for their theatrical tendencies. Queen Lysara's eyes flashed with dangerous crimson light, but she said nothing, her violet lips pressed into a thin line. In the corner of the room, barely noticed by the assembled dignitaries and medical staff, a human male in maintenance coveralls quietly cleaned the surfaces. Ethan Mitchell was a man in his early 30s with dark, wavy hair that fell across his forehead and a day's worth of stubble shadowing his jaw. His simple gray shirt was worn but clean, and his weathered hands moved the sonic cleaner with practiced efficiency while his brown eyes observed everything. He had been watching the small blue princess for days now, and something about her stillness reminded him of another child, in another time, in another place that felt like a lifetime ago. The way she sat so perfectly still, the way her tiny blue fingers occasionally reached for something that wasn't there, it was achingly familiar. The medical team continued their debates, throwing around terms like psychological trauma and xenophobic reaction syndrome. But Ethan noticed what they didn't see from his position in the corner. But while the hall filled with theories and speculation, the janitor's eyes caught something the others missed. The way the infant's gaze kept drifting toward the feeding equipment, not with hunger, but with a profound sadness that seemed impossible for someone so young to carry. 3 more days passed, and Princess Zara grew visibly weaker. The medical bay had transformed into a crisis center where representatives from 12 different species offered their expertise and left with their pride wounded. The small blue infant now lay on her side, her breathing shallow, her completely hairless head pillowed on sterilized medical padding. Ethan continued his rounds, invisible among the chaos of important people doing important things. But during the night shift, when the corridors grew quiet, and the only sounds were the gentle hum of life support systems, he found himself lingering near the medical bay's main entrance. Through the transparent aluminum doors, he could see Queen Lysara's striking figure. The alien queen had never left her daughter's side, her violet skin pale with exhaustion, her long purple hair now loosely braided. Even in distress, she was breathtakingly beautiful and utterly untouchable. "She grows weaker by the hour," said Dr. Vexen to the assembled council. "At this rate, organ failure will begin within 36 hours. Commodore Brex slammed his clawed hand against the table. "This is ridiculous. The feeding apparatus delivers perfect nutrition. Force the intake if necessary. The Queen's political alliance with the Federation depends on... You will not touch my daughter." Queen Lysara's voice cut through the room like a blade made of starlight. For the first time in days, she turned from the biobed, and Ethan caught a glimpse of her full beauty. High cheekbones, luminous violet skin, and eyes that held the depth of cosmic storms. Something stirred in Ethan's chest that he hadn't felt in 3 years, not since before his world collapsed. But he pushed the feeling down, focusing instead on the small blue form on the medical table. Inside his coveralls pocket, his fingers found the worn photograph he always carried, a blonde girl with bright blue eyes and a gap-toothed smile. His daughter Emma had been gone for 3 years now, lost to a plague that swept through the outer colonies. But he remembered everything about her, especially the way she used to refuse bottles when she was scared or missing him. As the heated argument continued behind the medical bay doors, Ethan made a decision that would have seemed impossible to anyone who knew his lowly station in life. He was going to help the alien princess, and somehow, deep in his heart, he knew exactly what she needed. But just as he turned toward the supply closet where he kept his personal belongings, Queen Lysara stepped into the corridor, and the intensity of her violet gaze froze him in place, as if she could see straight through to his soul and the secret sorrow he carried there. The next morning brought new chaos to the medical bay. Reports had leaked to the Interstellar news networks, and suddenly, Station Nexus 7 was the center of galactic attention. The mysterious illness of the alien queen's daughter had become a political crisis that threatened to destabilize peace treaties across 3 sectors. Ethan arrived for his shift to find the corridors crawling with security drones and diplomatic attachés. He slipped through the crowd with the practiced invisibility of someone who had spent years being overlooked, but today was different. Today he carried something hidden beneath his gray shirt. In the medical bay, the atmosphere was electric with desperation. Dr. Vexen was running the same scans for the 20th time, hoping for different results. The small blue infant lay motionless, her bald head turned toward the viewport, where distant stars twinkled like dying hopes. But it was Queen Lysara who commanded the room's attention. The alien monarch sat beside her daughter's bed, her violet skin luminous even in the harsh medical lighting. Without her formal royal adornments, wearing only the form-fitting purple suit, she looked younger, more vulnerable, and heartbreakingly beautiful. "Your Majesty," said Dr. Vexen, approaching carefully, "we've prepared another nutritional synthesis. The feeding mechanism has been recalibrated for optimal..." "No." Princess Zara spoke for the first time in days, her voice barely a whisper but somehow carrying throughout the silent room. "It doesn't feel like love." The simple statement hit everyone like a physical blow. In all their sophisticated analysis and complex theories, no one had considered something as basic as emotional nourishment. Queen Lysara's violet eyes filled with tears, and for the first time since arriving at the station, the most powerful alien ruler in the Outer Rim looked utterly fragile in her despair. Ethan stepped forward, his heart pounding against his ribs as every eye in the room turned toward him. The dark-haired human in the simple grey shirt had never looked more out of place among the galaxy's elite. "Your Majesty," he said quietly, his voice steady despite the magnitude of what he was about to do. Commodore Brex's scales shifted to a shocked yellow. "How dare a maintenance worker address the Queen directly?" the reptilian officer hissed. "Security." But Queen Lysara raised one elegant hand, stopping the approaching guards. Something in the human's brown eyes had caught her attention, a depth of understanding that seemed impossible from someone of such humble station. "Let him speak," she said, her violet lips parting slightly as she studied Ethan's face. And just when everyone thought they would witness a janitor's humiliation, Ethan reached beneath his gray shirt and revealed something that no one expected. A simple feeding bottle filled with warm, pale liquid that seemed to glow with an inner light. The room fell into absolute silence as Ethan approached the biobed where Princess Zara lay. The small blue infant turned her large dark eyes toward him, and for the first time in days, showed a flicker of interest. Her completely bald head caught the room's ambient light as she struggled to sit up. "What is that substance?" demanded Dr. Vexen, his scientific instincts overriding diplomatic protocol. Ethan ignored the assembled dignitaries and knelt beside the biobed, bringing himself to the child's eye level. His weathered hands held the bottle steady, and the aroma that escaped was unlike anything the sterile medical bay had ever contained. Warm, sweet, with notes of vanilla and something indefinably homey. "It's warm milk with honey," said Ethan softly, speaking directly to Zara. "My daughter used to call it love in a bottle when she was scared or missing home." Queen Lysara leaned forward, her violet skin seeming to shimmer with emotion. The movement caused her purple suit to catch the light in ways that made Ethan's breath catch in his throat. "You have a daughter?" she asked, and there was something in her melodic voice that hadn't been there before. Recognition, perhaps, or the beginning of understanding. "Had," Ethan corrected gently, never taking his eyes off Zara. "She passed 3 years ago. But before she did, she taught me that sometimes the best medicine isn't what machines make. Sometimes it's just someone caring enough to remember what makes you feel safe." Princess Zara's small blue hands reached out tentatively, her fingers barely large enough to grasp the bottle's sides. "Is it safe for her physiology?" interjected Dr. Vexen, but Queen Lysara silenced him with a look that could have melted starship armor. "My people's infants have similar nutritional needs to human children," the Queen said, her voice thoughtful. Her violet eyes never left Ethan's face, studying him with an intensity that made his skin warm, especially when it comes to emotional sustenance. Ethan offered the bottle to Zara, his movements gentle and practiced. "This was Emma's favorite," he said quietly. "She said it tasted like hugs and bedtime stories." Zara's small blue fingers finally grasped the bottle, and her eyes widened as if the simple contact had awakened something she thought was lost forever. The nipple was warm against her lips, and when she began to drink, color seemed to flow back into her translucent blue skin like dawn, breaking over an alien horizon. Commodore Breck scoffed from across the room. "Preposterous. It's just heated organic matter and—" But his words died in his throat as Princess Zara continued drinking, her entire being transforming before their eyes. Her blue skin grew more vibrant, her dark eyes brightened, and for the first time since the crisis began, she made a sound, a soft, contented sigh that spoke of profound relief. It wasn't just nourishment she had been missing. It was the irreplaceable comfort that came from being cared for by someone who understood loss. But the revelation that shattered everyone's composure came when Queen Lysara stood gracefully and placed her hand gently on Ethan's shoulder, her violet skin warm against his gray shirt, her touch sending electricity through his entire being. As Princess Zara continued to drink from the bottle, something shifted in the medical bay that went deeper than physiology or diplomacy. Queen Lysara's hand remained on Ethan's shoulder, her violet skin warm through the fabric of his gray shirt, and he found himself looking up into eyes that held the depth of nebulae. "How did you know?" she asked, her melodic voice barely above a whisper. Ethan felt his world tilt as he gazed into her beautiful alien features. The Queen's violet skin seemed to glow with an inner radiance, her purple hair falling like silk around her shoulders, and her form-fitting suit emphasizing every graceful curve of her otherworldly figure. "Because I've been where she is," he said simply, forcing himself to focus on the truth rather than the way her proximity made his pulse race. When Emma was sick, near the end, she stopped taking her bottles too. The doctors had all kinds of explanations, but I knew the truth. She was homesick for something that didn't exist anymore. Dr. Vexen stepped closer, his scientific mind racing. But the nutritional synthetics were perfectly calibrated for her species' dietary requirements. They should have been sufficient, Queen Lysara finished, her voice carrying a note of sad understanding. Her hand moved from Ethan's shoulder to gently stroke her daughter's bald blue head as the infant continued drinking. but not comforting. "Tell me, Doctor, when you were young, did your mother feed you with machines?" The crystalline alien fell silent, his hands folding behind his back. "We had to flee our homeworld when Zara was very young," the Queen continued, her violet eyes meeting Ethan's with an intimacy that made his heart race. "The war with the hegemony cost us everything. Our cities, our culture, our traditional ways of nurturing our children. For months we lived on whatever rations the refugee ships could provide." Princess Zara looked up from her bottle, her voice stronger now but still whisper-soft. "Mama used to sing while she warmed my milk," she said, her dark eyes bright with memory. "But on the ship, everything felt empty." Commodore Brex shifted uncomfortably, his scales flickering with agitation. "Your Majesty, surely you understand that wartime necessities were necessary." Queen Lysara cut him off, her free hand unconsciously moving closer to Ethan's as they both knelt beside her daughter. "But understanding necessity doesn't heal a child's heart, or a mother's." Ethan felt something crack open inside his chest, a feeling he'd kept buried since Emma's death. The recognition that grief and love transcended species, that the bond between parent and child was perhaps the most universal force in the galaxy. And something else, something dangerous and impossible, an attraction to the alien queen that defied every rational thought. "After Emma died," he said quietly, acutely aware of how close Queen Lysara's violet face was to his, "I kept warming bottles of milk and honey every night for months. I couldn't stop myself. It was like, if I stopped, she'd really be gone." Queen Lysara's free hand covered his, her violet skin warm and impossibly soft against his weathered fingers. "You still make it," she said, and it wasn't a question. Her violet lips were so close to his that he could feel her breath, sweet and warm, like starlight. Ethan nodded, unable to speak, lost in the depths of her cosmic eyes. But the revelation that would shatter everyone's understanding of reality came from Princess Zara herself, as she finished the bottle and spoke words that no one in that room was prepared to hear. "Mama," the blue infant said clearly, her voice carrying the profound wisdom that only children possess. "This is the man from your dreams, isn't it? The one who tastes like home." The bottle slipped from Princess Zara's small blue hands as every person in the medical bay turned to stare at Queen Lysara. The alien queen's violet skin flushed deeper purple, and her hand tightened around Ethan's as if anchoring herself to reality. "What dreams?" demanded Dr. Vexen, his crystalline features sharp with confusion. Queen Lysara stood gracefully, her hand never leaving Ethan's, pulling him up beside her. Her violet eyes searched his face with desperate intensity. "Ethan Mitchell," she whispered, and the way she spoke his name made him realize she had always known exactly who he was. Dark hair, brown eyes, grey shirt, father to Emma Rose Mitchell, born on Colony Taurus 7, lost to the Crimson Fever 3 years, 4 months, and 16 days ago. The blood drained from Ethan's face. Around the room, the assembled dignitaries exchanged shocked glances, but all Ethan could focus on was the impossible beauty of the alien queen standing so close to him that he could see his reflection in her cosmic violet eyes. "How do you know about Emma?" he whispered. Queen Lysara's other hand came up to cup his face, her violet skin warm against his stubbled cheek. "Because I was there," she said simply. "My medical ship was part of the relief fleet that tried to contain the plague. I was in the isolation ward when you held her hand as she passed." The silence that followed seemed to absorb sound itself. Even Princess Zara sat perfectly still, her dark eyes wide as she watched her mother's confession unfold. "That's impossible," stammered Commodore Brex. "The Queen was fighting the war in the Spiral Sector, the war that displaced millions." Queen Lysara continued, her violet hands framing Ethan's face as tears began to flow down her cheeks. "The war that created refugees on both sides. When the plague hit Taurus 7, politics became irrelevant. We had medical technology your colony lacked, and I couldn't stay away." Memory flooded back to Ethan with stunning clarity. the sleek alien medical ship that had appeared in orbit during the darkest days of the epidemic. The strange, beautiful figures in environmental suits who had worked tirelessly alongside human doctors, and one in particular whose violet skin had glowed even through the protective gear, who had sung in an alien language while comforting dying children. "You were there when she died," Ethan whispered, his hands coming up to cover Queen Lysara's, marveling at how perfectly her alien fingers fit against his. "You sang to her. You made her last moments peaceful. She told me about her father," Queen Lysara said, her violet lips trembling with emotion. "About the man who made love taste like warm milk and honey, who could make any fear disappear with a bottle and a lullaby. She made me promise." "Promise what?" Ethan asked, though somewhere deep in his heart he already knew. Princess Zara's small voice cut through the tension like a bell of pure crystal. "She made Mama promise to find you," the blue infant said with the devastating honesty that only children possess. "Because Emma said you were so sad that you might forget how to love, and Mama has been looking for you ever since." The revelation hit the room like a shockwave. This wasn't a medical emergency. This wasn't political theater. Queen Lysara, the most powerful alien ruler in the Outer Rim, had brought her daughter across the galaxy not for treatment, but to find the one human who could teach them both how to heal from the wounds that war and loss had carved into their hearts. But the final truth was yet to come, as Queen Lysara leaned close enough that her violet lips almost touched Ethan's ear and whispered words that would change the course of 3 civilizations. "I've been dreaming of you for 3 years, Ethan Mitchell, and now I know why." Princess Zara slid off the bio-bed and walked to where Ethan and her mother stood, her small blue hands reaching up to touch both of them. The simple gesture created a connection that seemed to hum with energy, and for the first time since the crisis began, the medical bay felt warm instead of sterile. "Now we're a family," Zara said with the profound simplicity that only children possess. "Like Emma wanted." Queen Lysara's violet eyes met Ethan's, and in that gaze he saw not just attraction or gratitude, but the possibility of something he thought he'd lost forever: home. "The war is over," she announced to the room, though her words were clearly meant for Ethan alone. "The hegemony has agreed to peace terms. My people can return to our home world, but I've learned that home isn't a place anymore. Home is wherever healing happens." Dr. Vexen cleared his throat nervously, his scientific mind struggling to process the emotional revolution unfolding before him. "Your Majesty, what exactly are you proposing for the child's continued care?" Queen Lysara's hand found Ethan's again, their fingers intertwining with natural ease despite the vast differences in their skin tones and origins. "I'm proposing that Station Nexus 7 become the first interspecies family integration center," she said, her melodic voice carrying new authority. "A place where refugees from all worlds can find not just medical treatment or political sanctuary, but the kind of healing that comes from understanding that love, true love, recognizes no boundaries." Commodore Brex stepped forward, his scales shifting through confused patterns of color. "And the administrative structure, the funding, the personnel." Queen Lysara looked directly at Ethan, her violet features radiant with hope and something deeper: love, impossible and real. "I believe we've found our first director of emotional wellness," she said. "Someone who understands that sometimes a bottle of warm milk carries more healing power than all our advanced technology combined." Ethan stared into her cosmic eyes, seeing not the alien queen who commanded fleets and shaped galactic policy, but simply Lysara, a mother who had traveled across the stars to fulfill a dying child's wish, who had risked everything to find a broken man and teach him that love could bloom even in the aftermath of loss. "I'm just a janitor with a gray shirt and too much grief," he said softly. "You're the man my daughter needed," she replied, her violet lips curving into a smile that rivaled binary sunrises. "And perhaps the man I needed too." Princess Zara tugged on both their hands. "Can we make more bottles together?" she asked. "And can Ethan teach me the songs Emma used to like?" 1 year later, Station Nexus 7 hummed with a different kind of energy. The sterile corridors now carried the sounds of laughter in dozens of languages, the aromas of traditional foods from across the galaxy, and the subtle but unmistakable warmth that came from genuine community. In what had been the medical bay's crisis center, Ethan Mitchell, now Director Mitchell, sat at a simple wooden table with Princess Zara, teaching her to prepare bottles of milk and honey the way Emma had taught him. His gray shirt had been replaced by simple but elegant clothing that befitted his new station, but his gentle manner remained unchanged. Across the room, Queen Lysara worked alongside Dr. Vexen and a team of interspecies psychologists, her violet beauty now enhanced by the joy that radiated from her like starlight. The form-fitting purple suit had given way to flowing robes that seemed to shift color with her emotions, and her long violet hair was adorned with simple flowers that Ethan had learned to braid during their quiet evening walks through the station's observation decks. "More honey," advised Zara seriously, her blue skin now vibrant with health, her bald head beginning to show the first soft fuzz of growing hair. "Emma used to say the same thing," Ethan replied, watching the alien child's face light up with joy at the mention of the sister she would never meet, but somehow knew intimately. Lysara looked up from her work and caught Ethan's eye across the room. The love that passed between them was visible to everyone, impossible, interspecies, and absolutely real. They had not yet spoken formal vows or made grand declarations, but every shared glance, every gentle touch, every quiet moment when they stood together watching the stars painted a picture of devotion that transcended biology and challenged the very foundations of what the galaxy thought it knew about love. Through the viewport, ships from dozens of worlds approached the station daily, their holds filled not with refugees or warriors, but with families seeking the kind of healing that could only come from understanding that the universe, despite all its vastness and strangeness, was fundamentally built on connections that defied logic and embraced wonder. Princess Zara finished her bottle and curled up against Ethan's side, her small blue hand finding his weathered one. "Do you think Emma would like our new family?" she asked. Ethan looked across the room at Lysara, whose violet eyes sparkled with tears of joy, and felt the last of his grief transform into something beautiful and whole. "I think she would love it," he said softly. "I think she would say we taste exactly like home." And somewhere among the stars, in the space between what was lost and what was found, the echo of a little girl's laughter seemed to dance with the cosmic wind, blessing a love that proved the universe's most fundamental truth, that healing happens not through grand gestures or advanced technology, but through the quiet miracle of hearts recognizing each other across the infinite darkness and choosing, against all odds, to build something beautiful together. In a cosmos built on complexity and division, sometimes the most profound revolution begins with something as simple as a bottle of warm milk, an alien child's trust, and two broken souls discovering that love, real love, needs no translation, requires no explanation, and knows no boundaries between the star.